Welcome to... On tonight's Clubhouse Live, we have a great Legends Edition show planned as we welcome longtime Packers radio play-by-play announcer Wayne Larrivee. We'll reminisce with Wayne about some of his more memorable moments from his legendary broadcasting career, and we'll get his thoughts on the Packers' playoff chances as they get ready for another matchup with the Bears. Plus, we've got a fast-paced game ready to go as part of our Clubhouse Live challenge. It's time to get started. Hey, Wayne, come on in.
Good Monday evening, and welcome back to the Fox Club. We're hanging out inside Neuroscience Group Field at Fox City Stadium in Grand Chute, Wisconsin. This is the home of the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, also the home to Clubhouse Live. I'm Brett Christopherson with USA Today Network Wisconsin and the Post Crescent. We have a very special Legends Edition show, but how's everybody feeling on this playoff edition of Clubhouse Live, right? The playoffs are here. So a lot to get to, a lot of fun, great energy. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight, and a big show with a big-time guest. But first, we have other big-time guests here. They are the newly minted #1 ranked team in Division 4 in the state of Wisconsin. They are tonight's team spotlight. Give it up for the St. Mary Catholic girls basketball team. The Zephyrs are here. Looking forward to meeting the Zephyrs a little bit later on in the show. And again, top-ranked, undefeated, and congratulations so far on a great season. All right, let's whip through this really fast. We got to mention it at least, right? Minnesota Vikings 16, Packers 3. Vikings fan, that game doesn't count. I told you that. They're not putting it in the record books. That was not a real NFL game yesterday. But not much to say about Sunday's matchup in Minneapolis other than it's over, right? In what amounted to a preseason game in Week 18, the Packers sat a bunch of their starters, played a bunch of their reserves, and got out of Minnesota relatively healthy and unscathed as they now gear up for the playoffs. Not too many highlights to mention I thought Chris Brooks, right, the running back, he did well out there. 61 yards on 13 carries as the Packers rushed for 128 yards. And it's not often we signal or point out the punter, but how about Daniel Whelan yesterday and his bionic leg? A net punting average of 50.8 yards on 8 punts, which included 5 punts inside the 20. And we'll give special mention to one of the friends of our show. Baron Sorrell had a nice game yesterday. 8 tackles and his first full career sack, right? Baron, a friend of the show. So the regular season is over. The NFC playoffs begin. Bears week is here, and it's now for the Packers. And normally he's mad, Vince, but I'm going to say he's happy, Vince, because he's ready for the Chicago Bears. Happy, Vince. And as I say, Vince always loves it when we got big-time guests, and we've got one sitting right over there. We're going to bring him over to the desk here in a couple minutes. But give it up for the radio voice of the Green Bay Packers. He's right there. It's Wayne Larrivee, everybody. Oh, wait, hold it, Wayne. We're not ready yet. We're not ready yet. We got a formal introduction for you. We got a formal intro. First, I got to get through my sponsors, and then we got to introduce Ricardo, and then you're on the show. But Cellcom and Piggly Wiggly are presenting sponsors. First, Cellcom was built here in Wisconsin. They cover every county, corner, and cabin road in the state, and they'll buy out your current contract and give you up to $1,100 toward a new phone when you switch. See Cellcom.com for details. And Piggly Wiggly is proud to support the Green Bay Packers as your local grocery store. They're committed to making a difference in the community, both on and off the field. Shop local, shop the pig. All right, we're going to fly through this Bears minute. It's when I have to introduce the other member of our Clubhouse Live crew. It is the one, and thankfully the only, right? Chicago Bears fan, Ricardo Arguello.
Ooh, I'm ready.
Are you ready for Bears week, Ricardo, right?
I think everyone's ready for this, Brett. You know, there's some stuff here that you have written down. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Who cares what happened in the regular season? It's the second season. I'm just happy my Bears are playing in it. I can't imagine a better matchup here with the Packers. It's the way it's supposed to be, Brett. Postseason, Packers and Bears, it just feels right.
Only the third time in their history,
that is
right?
What it surprises me the most, that they've only met 3 times.
Yeah, back in 2010 NFC Championship game, the Packers won that one, and then in the Western Division playoff back in 1941, the Bears won that one. So all 3 games now will be held in Chicago, but it should be fun. And we'll see how it goes, and we'll see who's gloating next Monday night, right?
Did you say Chicago and Green Bay were in the Western Division?
Something like that. That was the 1940s.
Not a long time ago.
A little before my time. All right, Ricardo, quickly, interactive show, right?
It is. So we invite your comments and questions to our live chat. That can be found next to the USA Today Network Wisconsin YouTube video stream. I am monitoring that chat. It's already very active, but a lot of folks want to ask some questions of Wayne. I'll relay any comments and questions over to both you and Wayne.
All right, so Facebook.com/Clubhouse Live and Packers News, and then I'm on Twitter at PC Bretzi. You're at Ricardo De Leon. All right, Wayne, we have the Bears welcome mat. If you don't mind just kind of walking over that, just to kind of give the Packers a little good luck, right, as we head into the playoffs. But tonight's special guest, he has been the radio play-by-play voice, the voice of the Green Bay Packers since 1999. Check this out. He's in his 48th consecutive year of broadcasting NFL games. Tonight's guest is a Midwest Emmy winner. He is a multiple award winner. He is a Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Hall of Famer. He will one day be in the Packers Hall of Fame, right, everybody? Yeah. He has provided the soundtrack for some of the most legendary moments in Packers history, and he has one of the most iconic catchphrases in sports broadcasting. Let's say it together. There is your dagger. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for a Green Bay Packers radio voice. It's Wayne Larrivee, everyone. All right. I tell you what, when I found out you were going to be on the show, Wayne, I was super pumped. I always like it when the guests are on, but these are like storytelling shows to me, right? And especially going into the playoffs, and it's just a fun atmosphere. Nice crowd here, good energy on this Monday night. Welcome to the show. How you feeling?
Good
How you
to be
doing?
here, yeah.
Yep.
Wonderful to be here. I've heard about this show. I've never been on it. So
what have you heard is what I want to know.
Well, it's all good.
Except for that guy right over there. Do you have a message for Chicago Bears fan Ricardo Arguello, Wayne? Do you have a message for that guy? You have anything to tell that guy?
Just be ready.
Yeah, there we go.
I like it. I
think
like it.
Matty LaFleur has been preparing for this for quite some time these last couple of weeks, and I think he'd really enjoy beating Ben Johnson twice in a season, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that'd be really apropos, but we'll see. Who knows?
Basically did beat him twice, right? But some unfortunate circumstances in that game at Soldier Field derailed a victory. But now listen, 14 seasons you called Bears games, right? Was it 14 seasons?
Starting with 1985. They're the best year of Bears football ever.
Yeah,
it was a great team.
We always joke with Ricardo that he still lives in 1985. He still talks about that season.
Because, Wayne, it was a great year, my friend. You have to admit that.
It was an incredible year and an incredible team. But, it's funny because after the game in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, I do a podcast with Hub Arkush and his son. Okay. And Arthur, who wasn't around in 1985, I don't think he was. Well, he might have been. But anyway, he was very young at the time. He started celebrating like it was 1985 again. I said, put the brakes on that, mister. The Bears don't suck, but they're not the 1985 Bears by any stretch.
And Ricardo would agree with that, especially that defense, right? Versus the 85
they're
Bears.
the antithesis of what the 1985 Bears was, yeah.
Well, have Chicago fans finally forgiven you for leaving the dark side and coming to the good side,
Not
right?
really,
No?
which I look at as a compliment, you know what I mean? I guess I must have touched enough people. They were PO'd when I left, so, what are you going to do? I figured it was just a play-by-play guy. It's not like Butkus left the broadcast booth and came up to Green Bay.
Well, his nephew is with the Packers, right? Luke Butkus, the offensive line coach.
See, Butkus and I worked together along with Jim Hart on that 85 Bears season.
Okay.
It was great. We were a new broadcast team. The games had just switched from News Talk Radio 780, WBBM, back to WGN, where they were for decades and decades. And so that year, the program guy at WGN, Dan Fabian, he he said, well, okay, I'm going to hire this guy from Kansas City, Wayne Larrivee, and then I'm going to hire Jim Hart, but everybody thinks he's the Cardinals quarterback. But he's from St. Charles, Illinois, so it's kind of a natural hire. But then he said, well, they think he's the Cardinals guy and this other guy they don't even know. So how can we make this broadcast Chicago? Well, think back to 1985. Who's the quintessential Bear? Dick Butkus, right? Well, Butkus is an actor. He's living out in Malibu, California, and he just finished a movie called Hamburger Hill. One of the classics, I guess. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so, he goes out to California. He says to Dick, listen, Dick, we need you just to play act here. You're the guy. We need you to look at film and know stats or anything like that. But when the Bears do something good, you roar. And when they do something bad, you go, ah, type of thing. And Butkus said, well, I'm an actor. I could do anything. So here he is. He comes in, and he's the color guy. He kind of tied us to Chicago. And then when the Bears took off the way they did, that sealed it.
Well, what was that like covering that team? We talk about a cast of characters, right?
Those
85 and strong personalities, right?
Yep.
You're kind of a young broadcaster at that time. Was there a little bit of an intimidation factor?
I will say this. It was my first year. I'd spent 7 years in Kansas City with the Chiefs. Marv Levy's first year as a head coach in the NFL was my first year in Kansas City. It was 1978, and I was like 22 years old at that time. So anyway, the Chiefs, and the best record they had in my time there was they went, I guess they went 9-7 and lost 6 of their last 8 games to get there. So here I come to Chicago, and these guys are undefeated like halfway through the season. I'm sitting here saying, holy cow, this was just hitting me so fast. It was like, I wish I had spent more time there before that season because I would have had a better handle on what it all meant. So fast forward years later, I'm in Green Bay. By the time the Packers get on that Super Bowl run late in the 2010 season, I had been here 10 years. So I know how the team was put together. I knew what was at stake and what was going on, and it was a much better perspective of what was happening. But that 85 season for me was a blur.
Brett, this is great. Can we just keep talking about this the rest of the hour?
That's enough about the Bears.
I love this. This is great.
That's it. No more Bears talk, right? We're going to switch to the green and gold. But actually, I want to talk more about your background, though, before we talk about the Packers a little bit. But like yesterday's game, for instance, what are the challenges in broadcasting a game like that when you saw all the transactions that were happening?
23 of them.
Yes. And you're watching guys out there like, who's number 47? Who's number this? How do you prepare for something like that?
I knew the Vikings better than the Packers yesterday. Much better. I mean, much better.
Yeah.
They made 23 transactions. I was talking to Eric Sullivan, one of, he's Brian Gutekunst's right-hand man in the personnel department. I said, boy, you guys talk about building a roster over a year. You guys had to build a roster in a week, and he shook his head. Yeah, I mean, it was that kind of a week. So it was interesting. I mean, you had to try to get as many people put together as you could. I have these spotting boards. I should have brought one to show you guys. But anyway, getting all the information together and the players and that type of thing. And then when 38 makes a play out there, you got to look down because you don't know who 38 is. You haven't memorized that yet. You haven't seen him long enough. 28, you knew Diggs, and he had only been in camp for 2 days. So, it was a lot like a preseason game.
How do you do that, though? Because if you're watching the game, if you're like me, I'd be like trying to find number 38 quickly, but you got to be fast, right? You got to be quick.
When I went to Pampa, Texas, I took a semester out of college. I went to Pampa, Texas. That's P as in Peter, Pampa, Texas. And where is Pampa, Texas? Well, it's about an hour north of Amarillo, up in the panhandle of Texas. And this town was about 25,000 people. The tallest building outside of the grain elevators was the press box in the high school football stadium. And 15,000 people every Friday night showed up, and it was like religion. And it was a great experience. I took a semester doing that, then went back up to Boston to college to finish up. But it was great, and it was an interesting thing. But my boss once told me he did play-by-play too, but he wanted me to do this season. He told me, he said, listen, the one thing, you don't have to have everybody memorized, but you got to know where to find them on your chart. And that was great advice.
Yeah, but you got to be fast because you can't have dead air, right? You can't have, so.
Sometimes there's an awkward pause in there. But
yeah, but that's okay. I mean, that's okay. But looks like Ricardo is waving me down. You got something online, Ricardo?
Because Iowa Joe here online, he asked a question. I think this is kind of related quick. He wants to know, is there a name that you've come across that kind of made you sweat a little bit in pronouncing it? A name that was difficult.
Like Kabir
there
Baja
were many of them.
Biamila.
There were many. I am of the belief that parents under the influence of whatever sedative or whatever you have at birth should not be allowed to name their babies. We have, in my business, you come across some incredible names. Abunga Wale and all kinds of names, especially now that the games, basketball especially, which I did a lot of basketball over the years, has become international. And so you've got a lot of players from all kinds of different countries and backgrounds, and trying to pronounce some of those names, my goodness, wow.
KGB, right? Kabir Baja Biamila. That was kind of a goofy one back in the day.
Until we started calling him KGB.
KGB, and that was really easy.
That was good. Yeah, but for a while, that was a hard one.
Well, take us into a typical week for Wayne Larrivee as you're getting ready for a game. The Bears a little bit, but let's say you're going to the Broncos, a team that you don't necessarily see. You see them every 4 years, right? So how do you get ready? I suppose you got production meetings, you're researching, you're probably talking to PR, personnel guys, all this stuff. Take us into a week as you get ready for a call.
Well, I used to spend a lot of time with public relations people, but not anymore.
Okay.
They send you a book about this thick on their team, and if you call them and ask them a question, they'll say, well, that's on page 556. And I'm not a fast reader, okay? So, no, what I do on Monday morning, I get in and I get my charts, and I go through this system called NFL OMG. It's on the internet, and it has all the stats almost immediately after the game. So Monday morning, I'm basically putting together my stats on the boards, on the players, on the teams, and everything else. And that's about a 2.5, 3 hour process. So that's Monday for both teams. You have to do it for both teams because the stats change every week. So that's part of it. And then Tuesday, you usually get those press packets in. And then, you can start doing notes out of that. They give you some good notes here and there along the way, and you always incorporate something. Meanwhile, throughout the week, I also, especially at this time of year, I don't necessarily spend a lot of time with the notes that the PR guys send me. I spend a lot of time with the stats they send me, like team stats and trends, okay? Because whereas the Packers might be ranked 10th in yards in the National Football League for the season, what are they the last 4 weeks? Well, they've been giving up 356 yards, and that ranks like 25th in the league over the last 5 weeks. But that's who they are now.
Right.
And that's not, like the Bears since their bye week 5, a long time ago. They're like number one in offensive yardage per game. Number one in the league over that period of time. So you have to look at stats at this time of year. Who are these teams? Go back 4 to 6 weeks. And that'll tell you, because the overall stats may be a lot better than those teams are today.
Yeah, good stuff, right? How about Wayne Larrivee so far tonight? Yeah. The trends, right? What's happening now recently versus what happened 9, 10, 11 weeks ago. So, Wayne, when did you know you wanted to do this for a living, right? Did it have something to do with Marv Albert and the New York Knicks? Yeah.
It really did. I grew up in Western Massachusetts, and I grew up a fan of 2 teams primarily. One was the New York Yankees, and the other one was the Green Bay Packers, because I loved the colors. Green and gold were my favorite colors. And then my mom got me this NFL lunchbox. And who was on the cover of the lunchbox? Big in his Packers uniform, green uniform, and his big helmet on, Jim Taylor. And I said, wow. And so I started following the Packers at that point, and they became my team. And I always said when I got into broadcasting, and it was in high school, the Knicks had this great team, and they had a great young announcer at the time, Marv Albert, doing radio out of New York City. And he was phenomenal on radio. He was great on TV all the years. You know him from TNT and all that stuff, NBC and everything else. He was great on TV, but he was much better on radio. He could paint a picture on radio like few other people could. Jim Durham in Chicago, the late Jim Durham, one of those kinds of play-by-play guys on radio. There are not many radio play-by-play guys that do basketball well because, number one, it's so quick, it's so fast, it doesn't lend itself to radio. There are no breaks, and if you're an analyst working with the play-by-play guy on radio for basketball, you have almost no time to say anything about anything, and because the game is continuous. But it's a great challenge. I always enjoyed doing radio play-by-play. Most of my experience in basketball was on TV, and a lot of it was on the superstation WGN doing Notre Dame and DePaul, and then eventually the Jordan Bulls.
Yeah,
and I did that for 18 years.
That must have been an experience, right? I mean,
It
you
was
talk
awesome.
about like another world with Michael Jordan and those guys, right?
We would, in the personalities, I mean, it was Michael, it was Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, and then later on Dennis Rodman. And they were like, it was like following a rock group. And, you know, the NBA is this type of thing. You'll have a game on a Friday night in Chicago, and your game the next day is, let's say, Saturday night in Philadelphia. Well, after the game in Chicago, you hop on a charter, you fly to Philadelphia, you arrive at the hotel at about 3 a.m. in the morning, maybe 3:30 Eastern time. And, you know, you'd expect to be able to just go in and get your room and go. No, the lobby was packed with people at 3:30 in the morning just waiting to catch a glimpse of Jordan and Pippen and Rodman and all these guys. And they were a great group to follow.
So like the Beatles, you know, back in the day, just that sort of hype and craziness. But did I read correctly? Emerson College, right, is where you went, Boston, Massachusetts?
Yeah.
And that you would go to Boston Celtics games, speak into your tape recorder, and kind of practice your craft, right? Is that true? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, no, you got it pretty correct. This is back in the days when, you know, in an arena like the Boston Garden, okay, forget it. They don't have luxury suites in these old arenas, all right? They didn't, on any of them back then. And it's the early to mid-1970s. And so, you know, what I did was I found a bag tag, an NBC Sports bag tag. So I had a typewriter case, and I put it on the typewriter case, put my tape recorder and microphone and my whatever, notes or whatever, and I went up to the press entrance, and, you know, I'd say hi to the guys. They got to know me after a while. I'd go over to the press room. I'd have dinner and grab the notes for the game, and then I'd go up to the hockey boxes because they were way above. You know, hockey is done above the ice. Basketball is done more on the second level. In the Boston Garden, it was second level for the basketball broadcast, and TV did the floor, was on the floor. So I'm up there in these hockey boxes, and there's nobody around, and I'm broadcasting every Celtics game I'm in town for. I just go, and they eventually, they at one point started giving me, you'll need playoff credentials. They just handed me playoff credentials. This is back before 9/11, back before we had all these restrictions. In the NFL today, if you go from one hallway to another, you have to show your face to some camera just to get in. The security is phenomenal. It's just, I think it's totally ridiculous, but because nobody got killed back in those days when we didn't have all the security, okay? It was much easier to get around and much easier to do. So I did that, and then I'd go back and I'd listen to it, and eventually I would let other people listen to it in the business, and they kind of helped me along, and it was great. It was a great experience. I did that for the better part of 4 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it helped me get a great job out of college. I did one of the broadcasts of the University of Iowa when my first year out of college, 1977. Now this is back again. Hard for many of you to remember this. Some of you might, of a certain vintage. But today, you have one broadcast, okay? The Badgers are one broadcast. That's Matt LePay. Well, back then, even Wisconsin had 2 or 3 broadcasts. But in a football-crazed state like Iowa, University of Iowa, had 13 broadcasts. Now, think about this. 13 different broadcasts. Every town of any kind of significance sent a broadcast team to Iowa City every week to broadcast the Hawkeyes games. So I had one of those gigs. That was awesome. But I will never forget this story. Okay, so we do a home game against Northwestern, and the Hawkeyes win. Now we're going to UCLA. Okay, here I am, 22 years old. This is a big deal, big trip. We're going to UCLA. That's great. They're playing in the Coliseum. The Coliseum doesn't have, for some reason, they don't have 13 radio broadcast booths. They have like 1 or 2.
Really?
And so the rest of us are up on the top of the Coliseum. We're on the roof. I can reach up and touch the lights, and it's a night game. And UCLA is wearing powder blue with gold numbers. Now think about that at night. Okay, I got a score wrong. I got the running back who rushed for a touchdown for UCLA, his name wrong. I didn't know until I got back to Davenport, Iowa, next Monday when I was looking through the notes. Oh my God, I had that name wrong. But who cared? It didn't matter. But anyway, that was just, that was an experience.
Training ground, right?
And that gave me an opportunity the next year to go to Kansas City. They had an opening, and the requirement was you had to have at least Division I college football play-by-play experience. Well, what's better than the Big Ten?
Well,
no one at that time.
And the rest is history, right? Here he is all these years later. A couple more things. Ricardo, do you have any audience questions tonight?
Yeah, we have a couple coming up here from Coach and.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get the audience questions ready, but let's do this, Wayne. Real quick, two things. Number one, it's got to be tough. Football's 1 game a week. Basketball, 82 games, right? You've done baseball, 162 games, day after day after day. It seems like to me it would be easier to kind of prepare for a football game because you got the time versus day after day after day.
When you don't do games, and I did the Cubs for 3 or 4 years, through the whole season. In addition to the other stuff I was doing in Chicago, I was so lucky in Chicago. Tribune Corporation really believed in me and used me on a lot of different things. So the thing about baseball is it's very much your preparation outside of the basic numbers on the lineup card. Your preparation is going to the batting cage, visiting with some of the guys, talking back and forth with players and that type of thing. And there's a lot of that. Baseball is absorbed. The preparation, you absorb it day to day. The hard part with baseball is when you come in, as I did later on in my career, to do like a weekend series. Maybe if you're doing 2 games in a weekend series, you've been out the whole week. So it's harder to do that because you've got to kind of catch up. It's such a day-to-day thing. Pretty much with the NBA, too. You might do 3 or 4 games in a week. But I did games on the Superstation, so we had a certain number of games. We had like 35 of their games. And then the others were done on a cable by another group.
Last thing, and then we're going to kick it over to Ricardo for an audience question. Where did the catchphrase, right, the trademark, "There is your dagger," where did that come from, Wayne?
I wrote a book about 10 years ago. You didn't read that? I had a whole chapter on that.
I should have. Where's the book? Give me the book here. Where is it?
Oh, my. No, it's a basketball term. We used to use it all the time in basketball. And it's when a game's going back and forth, we're coming down to the final seconds, okay? 15 seconds ago. And let's say Michael Jordan hits a three-pointer. Now the Bulls are up by 2 possessions, okay? And at that point, the other team does not have enough time to catch up. The Bulls lead by 2 scores, let's say. And I would say at that time, and there's your dagger. Okay, well, I was doing Bulls long after I left Chicago for Wisconsin, and I'm still doing Bulls games on the Superstation. And we had a Saturday night game. And it happened to be before a Packers game in 2001. And, so I did the game Saturday night in Chicago and drove home and then up to Green Bay the next day. So it's a back-and-forth game between the Packers and the world champion Baltimore Ravens. So it must have been 2001. I'd never used dagger in a football game prior to this at all. But they're going back and forth, and finally Brett Favre hits a guy by the name of Jeff Thomas into the south end zone, right side of the south end zone of Lambeau Field. Now the Packers are up 3 scores. It's the 4th quarter. The Ravens are having trouble scoring anyway. And so then I said, and there's your dagger. And didn't think anything of it. And the next week, I didn't use the term. And people started saying, well, what was the dagger? And then it kind of took on a life of its own, but it was unintentional totally.
Wayne, let's pretend it's Saturday night. Josh Jacobs plows into the end zone, right?
Easy here.
That's the game win. Give us a little example of what that's going to sound like. Can you just give us a little taste of that, Wayne? Come on. Just do it, right?
All right,
Josh
here we
Jacobs,
go.
3-yard touchdown run.
Packers, 2nd and goal at the 3-yard line of Chicago. Here we go. Hand off to Jacobs, and why not? Plows up the middle, carries bodies into the end zone, and there is your dagger.
There you go. Yes. Yes. We did it. Show's over. We're done. All right. All right, Ricardo, you got an audience question. What's going on?
Yes, this is Coach Julie Detchen. She has a question for Wayne. Go ahead.
First of all, thanks for being here, Wayne. It's awesome having you. Brett stole my question, my original one. So where, past or present, what is the worst stadium that you, as a broadcast person, have to perform your task?
Well, where I was yesterday is probably the 2nd worst. Beautiful new stadium. We were in the corner of the end zone. I sent a picture out on X of where we were, and the field goes away from us. We're in the corner, very corner of the end zone, up high, and everything is away. It's not like we're over the action. We're away. Everything's pushed back away. So, and you can, this is broadcast, Murphy's Law broadcast. You knew the whole game was going to be played on that far side, way down there. Virtually the whole game happened there. And it was awful. But the worst place there are two of them. One is Washington, where you're low, very low, in the corner of the end zone and trying to see across the field. And for me, I don't know, the yard lines seem to, the hash marks, when they get farther away, they kind of condense and it's hard to tell. And then the other one is in Miami, where you're in a tiny, same type of thing, glass enclosed booth on the first level, trying to call a game from the corner of the end zone, and you can't open the window. I mean, it's just glass enclosed. So those are the two worst in the league. Chicago's not great. The way they've got it set up now, it was great when I was there, but it's not anymore because you're underneath the upper deck. You're low enough, and you're maybe on the 25-yard line, but every time somebody hits a punt or throws a rainbow-type pass, you have to look at a TV monitor to see it. So there's some challenges in the NFL today.
Yeah, it's not all easy, not all glamorous, right? So thank you,
Thank
Julie,
you,
for the
Coach.
question. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick timeout, and we're going to do a stat pack right here. The Packers are gearing up for the playoffs for the 25th season since 1993. That's 25 times they've made the playoffs in 33 seasons. A remarkable run of winning football, and let's not get spoiled by that, right? A lot of franchises would kill for that kind of success. The Packers have qualified for postseason play in 6 of Matt LaFleur's 7 seasons, and of course, this overall stretch dating back to '93 includes those 2 Super Bowl championships. So, Ricardo, let's skip trivia tonight. We're having too much fun with Wayne
No
Larrivee,
problem.
so we're going to go right to the next segment with Wayne, and this is what we're going to do, because this is a Legends Edition show, and you certainly are a legend in my mind anyway. I think he's a legend, right? He's going to be a Packers Hall of Famer. This is what we've done. We've had guys like Jerry Kramer on, Antonio Freeman. I mean, a whole bunch of Eddie Lacy just recently, Leroy Butler, John Kuhn. We do like a photographic trip down memory lane. So we're going to put some photos on that monitor, if you can see it back there, and just kind of get your thoughts on some of the great moments of your career and how it intertwines with Packers history. All right, so Rosie, let's put up photo number 1 back there, and I'll kind of mention there. Now, Brett Favre, right? There's the Oakland Raiders. Now, Wayne, that is September 12th, 1999, the season opener at Lambeau Field, Packers and Raiders, your very first broadcast as the voice of the Green Bay Packers. What do you remember about that game?
Oh, I remember it was a great game. John Gruden was on the other sidelines. He was a former assistant coach of the Packers. Everybody knows him now, but he was great. And they had a very good team. And we had Brett Favre and the Packers and high hopes and everything else. And it was a back-and-forth game, and the Packers were trailing. And Favre took them down the field in the final seconds and was able to get a touchdown pass to win the game. And I had my 2 boys with me. One, my youngest son, was in middle school, and he was spotting for us. That was his job in the booth. And he was very good at it, and he did it for about 10 years, right through college. And my oldest son, Scott, who's 6 years older than him, and he was a student at UW-Madison, but I had them in the booth, for that first game. It was a big deal. So we're heading down after the game. The Packers had won in dramatic fashion, and it was hot and humid, and Brett Favre, they carried him off because he couldn't. It was just one thing after another. It was just amazing. Ray Rhodes' first game as head coach. So anyway, we're heading down the press elevator from the press box at Lambeau Field. And so just the 3 of us are standing there, and my older son, Scott, says, "Well, Dad, this is why we came here, to see Brett Favre take the Packers on a magical run and win a game in Lambeau Field like that."
Yeah,
And it really
story,
was.
yeah.
Kind of summed up why we made that move.
Now, I was just kind of wondering your thoughts, though, going into that, as far as you're following another legend, Jim Irwin, right?
Yep.
Forever, him and Max McGee. Any apprehension about that and trying to acclimate yourself to the Packers fans after Jim had been there for so long?
No, because Jim had become a friend of mine over the years, both in the NBA and NFL. So I knew him very well, and I knew when he decided to retire that was he was firm on that, and so nobody was pushing him out, for sure. And so that made me feel a little more comfortable that he kind of said, "What do you think? Would you want to put your hat in the ring?" And, I said, you know what? I've always said this. If I ever get a chance to do either the Yankees or the Packers, I would have to at least, put my hat in the ring, at least try.
Yeah.
And so that's what led to that.
Fantastic.
And it took over a year for that to get done, too.
Oh my God. How lucky are Packers fans, right? Jim Irwin to Wayne Larrivee, iconic voices. All right, Rosie. Photo number 2. Let's see what you got up there, right? There you go. Look at those two guys, right? Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. Wayne, does it get any better than that?
Talk about a succession plan,
Holy
huh?
smokes. I mean, talk about broadcasting gold, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
They were just terrific. I saw Brett earlier this year down in Dallas when we were down there. Had a great conversation with him. He's just a terrific guy and always was. And so is Aaron. I knew Aaron so well because I happened to broadcast with ESPN. Randy Wright. Do you remember Randy Wright, the quarterback
Sure.
at the Packers in Wisconsin?
Right.
He was my analyst on Big Ten football for like 10 years. We worked together. And it's the second week of the season. It's 2003.
Okay.
And we're at Illinois. And Illinois's got a really good defense. And Cal is coming in. And Jeff Tedford, their coach, is alternating quarterbacks. And it's Aaron Rodgers' turn to make his first start on the Division I level. And so he goes in there, and he was terrific, and Randy was so impressed. And I started following him, not just that year, but his junior year at Cal, and then he came out after his junior year. But he went to USC, Clay Matthews and that team that went on to win the national championship. At USC, almost upset them with Cal. He completed 24 passes in a row in that game, Coliseum record collegiately. So I'm following him, and all of a sudden the Packers end up drafting him, and, we got reacquainted and that type of thing. And so Aaron was always good to me. He was great to me. He would take, we would meet on Thursdays, and I mean for tops, 5 minutes at his locker. And, he would look at my boards and he said, well, we like Jordy over here on this guy. We think we got a situation here, and we better know where this guy is at all times because he could blow up the game plan. So, he was great in that regard, and that was a relationship we had for many, many years. And it was wonderful. And I remember this story. I'm jumping ahead, and I'm going on here too much.
You're good.
But it's 2016, okay? The Packers are 4-6. And I'm sitting at Aaron's locker, and I'm saying to him, I said to him, Chief, this is not a very good football team. He looks at me and says, oh, this team sucks. Okay. Then 24 hours later, he's meeting with the media for his regular weekly chat, and he says, you know what? I think we're going to run the table. And by God, they did. 8 straight wins to the NFC Championship game. And I told Aaron this. You won 4 MVPs. You were never better than that year when you took that team to the NFC Championship game. Never. No, he was never better because he always had more to work with. That team, that was Ladarius Gunter covering Julio Jones in Julio's prime. A guy by the name of Ladarius Gunter. God bless him, but man, he couldn't cover you or me.
Well, I'm going to say
that's hyperbole.
That
yes.
is hyperbole.
That is hyperbole.
So, Rosie, let's quickly put the next one up here because this one's coming up, Wayne. It's Super Bowl 45, right? There's Aaron Rodgers, Clay Matthews.
The Californians in that picture.
The Californians down in Arlington, Texas, but that's the pinnacle, right? That's the pinnacle for the team, but a pinnacle for a broadcaster, too, to be in that moment, right?
Yeah, and folks, when you're doing local, all right, now, I did a lot of regional and national stuff over the years of my career, and the beauty of doing the national stuff is you don't have to worry about your call. You just call it. You just give every play its just due. And it's a little different when you're speaking to one audience, for example, like Packers fans. They don't really want to hear you go gaga over the other team's touchdown. I kind of, from the East Coast, that's what you do on the East Coast. You call every play the way it happens. And but in the Midwest, and I learned this in Chicago, they want you. If the other team had a good play, they want you kind of down about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to give that your top call. But when your team wins, you can feel it. And the Super Bowl was wonderful because I did Super Bowl 20 with the Bears, and it was Super Bowl 45, 25 years later with the Packers. And really the height of my career, is that I did a Super Bowl championship in Chicago and a Super Bowl championship for Green Bay. I don't think it gets any better than that. These are the two most legendary, oldest franchises in the league, and that's just a tremendous. For me, what great fortune I had to go do that.
You have rings? Did you get Super Bowl rings?
No, I got it. No, I did not get a ring from Chicago. But listen to this story. Okay.
Figures, Ricardo.
No, listen to this. So that's a broadcast team with Dick Butkus, but he may have still had the knee injury lawsuit going at that time. I'm not sure. But anyway, they did not give us rings. They gave us watches. And, so one time I'm half dozing. I'm coming back I worked a lot in Chicago down in the city at Tribune Tower at WGN Radio and TV. But anyway, so I'm coming back in the train, and somebody pilfered my watch off my wrist.
Really?
I don't know what happened to it. I was half asleep, and that was it. That was the end of that. So that's gone, which was not a big deal. I wasn't really proud of it anyway. So here we are. Here we are, fast forward. That was Michael McCaskey. Now, one last thing about that story.
Yeah.
Okay? Michael McCaskey, the late Michael McCaskey, who was actually a good guy, and the McCaskey family is a great family, and they are wonderful. George is running the team, and I think he's finally got it right down there. He really does. That's not good for us, but I think they finally got it right. George McCaskey was the ticket manager when I was down there. He's now been elevated after all these years to become the CEO of the ball club. Anyway, so our program director, the guy who hired me at WGN, says to Jerry Venice, Jack Venice with the Packers, built the Lombardi Packers, period. He built the team.
Right.
But anyway, Jerry's his younger brother, and Jerry's now the GM of the Bears in 1985. And so our program director calls and says, hey, Jerry, we'll pay for the broadcast team's rings. No problem. And Jerry said, okay. And a day later, Michael McCaskey said, oh, no, we're limiting the number of rings we're going to make. How about that? So here we go, fast forward 25 years later. I get a call after the Super Bowl. It's April. I'm in my office. I get a call. It's from Green Bay. And in the voice on the other end, hello, yeah, this is Wayne. It's Mark Murphy. I need you to come to Green Bay. And I said, for what? He said, well, you got to get fitted for your ring. I said, really? You guys are going to give us rings? He said, yeah. Well, he said, well, when the Bears won the Super Bowl, you got a ring, right? And I said, I half paused and said, well, no. And now there's a pregnant pause at the other end of the line. Okay. Now think about this. He said, what the hell are we giving these yahoos rings for? The Bears didn't give them rings. So there's this long pause. Felt like an hour to me. It's probably more like 10 seconds. And finally, Mark says, well, those cheap bastards.
See? Ricardo.
So I did get a ring from the Packers.
Real quick.
Brett, I will say George Halas, and they were known to be very miserly.
Well, what did Ditka say about George Halas? He throws nickels around like manhole covers.
Yes, he does, yeah.
What a great line by Ditka.
But that was, believe me, up until recently, Bears fans still held that kind of like they're too cheap, they're not paying enough and all that kind of stuff.
Ricardo, let's do this. Let's skip right to you. Let's do the social media question of the night as long as we got you ready to go, right?
Okay, yes. It's from Dennis Reed on Facebook. He wants to know this from you, Wayne. If you could call one historical Packers game for which you weren't present, which would it be and why?
No question about it. The Ice Bowl game.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
My late friend Ted Moore called that game, and it was phenomenal. His call was phenomenal. It really was. And he told me how that game came off. Okay, they've got the windows closed. Now, Larry and I never closed the windows, okay, of the broadcast booth because we want to see the game, we want to feel the game, that kind of thing. Even the Giants, remember the NFC Championship game, 2007 season? That was almost as cold as the Ice Bowl. Yeah. And we had the windows open. So anyway, they have the windows closed. It's 1967. It's December 31st, New Year's Eve. The coldest New Year's Eve in Green Bay history, according to Ray Scott. So, Ted Moore and his counterpart, who was somebody from the newspaper, because they didn't have player analysts at that time, at least not on radio, they're trying to call the game from behind these windows, and they're fogging up. And, I mean, it's a sheet of ice. And so somebody had the idea, well, there's a gas station across the street. Let's go over and get some antifreeze. And so they got some antifreeze, and they were able to make kind of a portal. I mean, it was just a round little circle in the middle. And Ted, I'm sure, is up to the, and you can hear his voice ringing off of the glass because he's got to be up here like this trying to see what's going on down below. And it was phenomenal that the way he called that game. Ice Bowl is a game I would love to call again. And if Larry and I were doing it, the windows would be open.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'd be freezing, but they'd be open. And it was just, I listened to that game I'll never forget it, in my dad's old Mercury at Bosque Ski Area in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. He was a ski patrolman. We skied every weekend. And I was listening to that game, and it was cold in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, too, almost as cold as Green Bay. I listened to that whole game. Van Patrick was doing it on the Mutual Broadcasting Network, the national feed, and it was just great. And I could picture it in my mind the whole bit, and it's, to me, still the most electric game I've ever seen.
Unbelievable, right? How about Wayne Larrivee, right? The Ice Bowl. For having his question selected, Dennis wins a signed photo. Each week we'll ask you to submit a question for our guest that we'll ask live during the show. Look for it on Facebook.com/Clubhouse Live. All right, Wayne, we're going to do this. Rosie, we need some music. It's time for tonight's Clubhouse Live Challenge. That's sponsored by Munoz Family and Cosmetic Dentistry, your center for dental excellence. Voted Reader's Choice Best Dentist, Best of the Bay 3 times. Let Dr. Sebastian and his team of professionals help you achieve your dream smile. Wayne, we're going to play a quick trivia game, and you have a chance to win some prizes tonight, all right? We're going to play a game. We're going to call it Higher and Lower.
Higher and lower.
2 questions I'm going to ask. This is very...
Can I get input from the audience at all? Or
You
not?
never know. I mean,
Just
right?
a nod of the head?
You never know. So
Or up or down? Yeah.
I'm going to ask you 2 questions, each pertaining to a particular stat. Okay? Real easy stuff. Now, then you have to say what that stat is. If you're too high, I'll say lower. If you're too low, I'll say higher. For instance, how many Super Bowls have the Chicago Bears won since 1985? If you say 3, I'll say lower. If you say 1, I'll say lower.
Yeah.
If you say 0, I'll say, there you go, ding, 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 and you
Okay.
got it. It's like that Price is Right game. Remember,
Got it,
up
yeah.
and down. So now, if you win tonight,
It's like that Price is Right game without the hot chicks in the background, right?
Yeah, I mean it's.
We can't say those words. Wayne.
Yeah,
We
I mean
can't say-
it's yeah, whatever you say, Wayne. That's fine. That's not on the script. I don't see that on the script. But anyway, you have a chance to win
I'm
some
in
prizes.
trouble.
No, you're not.
Usually am.
Jay Carlson sitting right over there at that table. Jay, you have a chance to win some prizes, Wayne. And
Jay,
this is,
all right.
This is what he could win: a Packers hat, courtesy of our friends at Miller
Miller
Lite.
Lite.
One of our friends of the show, he's been on numerous times. Evan Williams, the very talented young
great kid.
safety. Really,
One of my favorite players.
yeah.
An ascending player.
oh, no doubt, future All-Pro. And this can koozie from our friends at Miller Lite. So that's what Jay can win if you get this right.
All right.
If you don't get this right, Jay will have to snuggle with Ricardo under a blanket as they watch the Packers
Yes.
Bears game. That's what happens if you don't
Bears
get it right.
victory, my friend.
So that's
Oh,
what we got to
boy.
do. Now, Ricardo, 30 seconds. You keep track of the clock.
I have it.
Don't start it until I ask the
Gotcha.
first question in its entirety. Who thinks Wayne can get through this tonight, right? Here we go, Wayne. Number 1. How many career touchdown passes has Jordan Love thrown? Go.
I'm going to say 57.
Higher.
60.
Higher.
75.
A little bit higher.
80.
Touch higher.
81.
More.
82.
More.
83.
Got it. Ricardo, what does he got?
Okay, he has 15 seconds left.
Per plenty of time. 83. Okay. Now cheer on Wayne Larrivee, folks. Here we go.
I better get that note on my charts, right, for this week? Yeah.
How many career receptions does Christian Watson have? And if you say like 133, you might be right. Go.
133.
Yes, Ricardo, did he get it right? He got it.
He did easily.
He got it. Rosie, some championship music because, Jay, you're going home with the hat, the signed photo, and the can koozie. Wayne Larrivee knew it. Just like that, 133 career receptions. How
Brett, I
about that?
didn't even have time to push the button to start the clock.
Hey.
He got it so fast.
Ricardo, we have our team spotlight. We want to introduce
Yes.
the St. Mary Catholic girls basketball
Can we
team.
have them
Yeah,
stand up?
absolutely.
Coach Chu, we need you to stand up as well. Brett, these girls are fantastic when you think a great
Division IV small school basketball. These girls are right at the top of the list in the state. They're off to another great start. 10-0 overall, 4-0 in the Big East North Conference. Brett, St. Mary Catholic ranked first in Division IV. First in the most recent Bound Wisconsin Zaleski State poll. Where's Autumn Crow at? Is Autumn around? Wave your hand. There you go. Nice and high. Come on, Autumn. There we go. Hey, she leads St. Mary Catholic in scoring at 20.8 points a game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
Where's Gabby Guerrero? Right there. Come on, Gabby. Got to raise high. Let everyone see you. Okay. She is next, 11.3 points. And then where's Lucy Knackers? Where's she at? There we go. I had to make sure I pronounced her name right, Brett. She's third at 10.5 points. Those are the 3 top scorers. You know, Brett, you want to build an ascending team, right? Get to that championship level. Last season, they were 26-4. They finished as state runners-up, so they made it to the D4 championship game, hoping to get a little farther this year. And they are coached, and check this out, by Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Famer Jeff Chew. He's right over there.
There he is.
Brett, I'm expecting St. Mary Catholic to head up to the Reich Center again for those state semifinals and possible final 2. Great team, number 1 in D4. We're expecting a long postseason run from them.
Give it up for the Zephyrs, ladies and gentlemen. St. Mary Catholic, undefeated and ranked number 1. Thank you, girls and coach, for being here. We appreciate it. We're running out of time. We got to get Wayne back on the road, get him back safe and sound. Ricardo, we're going to go straight up to our Up North segment. This is where we pick Packers-Bears Saturday night down at Soldier Field. Do I even have to ask who you're picking, Ricardo?
Well, yes, but let me first say this real quick. I know some people are excited that's on Saturday night. I can't believe it's on Amazon Prime. That should have been the prime game of all the playoff games. I'm not saying that just because I'm a Bears fan, but I respect the rivalry. I still can't believe that it has to be on a streaming service. That said, listen, Brett, the last 4 games with my guy Caleb Williams came down to the last play with him driving the Bears down. It's going to be close again. It is going to be agonizingly close. Everyone's going to have that pit in your stomach, right? Both sides. You know I got to pick Caleb Williams to pull out the win there, Brett. I'm going to say he's going to lead them down to the game-winning field goal.
All right, Wayne, this is called the Victory Visor. That means I'm picking a Packers victory on Saturday night with the Victory Visor. I think Ricardo's right on. I think it's going to be close. I think the Packers score a touchdown right at the end, make it 28-21. Bears come down, and you know Ben Johnson, he's not going to be able to help himself. They're going to score a touchdown. They're going to go for 2. They're going to blow. Trayvon Diggs is going to knock it loose, right? And the Packers win 28-27. What do you think about that? Because Ben Johnson can't help himself.
Brett, I will agree with you on this. He does tend to be a little too cocky, and I could see that happening, actually.
A little too cute. Quickly, Wayne, I know we got to get you out of here, but what do you think? Round 3, how do you see this going?
These teams are pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
I wish the Packers had Micah. I wish they had Devontae Wyatt and Tucker Kraft, but they don't. They've outplayed the Bears out of the 8 quarters, probably 6 quarters,
right.
And the Bears are the better team on the second half up in Lambeau Field, and the Packers hung on to win. But that game plan in Chicago, I don't know what you thought of it. It was brilliant. The Packers went down there they put their guys in the right spots and everything else. The guys played their butts off, and just some weird things happened. Hey, just recover an onside kick, and that game is over.
It's over.
And the Packers have won 2 over the Bears. So, but this is going to be an interesting one because it's a rubber match. It really is. And I think it's going right down to the wire. I agree with you guys.
And you think the Packers are going to win, of course.
Of course,
Of course, right? Of course.
Even if come on. Really.
Come on. This is a no-brainer, right? Packers are going to win. So how about Wayne Larrivee hanging out with us tonight?
Thank you very much,
night?
folks.
We're going to wind down. Don't forget about the Packers News app. We'll just kind of go through that again, 99 cents. Subscribe today. And again, thanks to our sponsors and friends, Cellcom and Piggly Wiggly, Munoz Family and Cosmetic Dentistry, our segment sponsor, and our supporting sponsors and friends, Shields Escort Limousine Service, Mayfield Sports Marketing, Mike Thiel and Eric lives here, Miller Lite, and the great folks here with the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers and the Fox Club. Programming note, show next Monday night right here at 6:30 at the Fox Club. We'll announce next week's guest later on this week on Facebook.com. we'll be celebrating a Packers victory over the Bears. And in the meantime, Wayne, you get the final word. What do you want to say to all these great fans that came out here to see you and talk some Packers
Well,
football
I appreciate it, folks. It's been great to be here. I've heard of this show for a long time. Never had a chance to be on it, and thank you for the invitation. This was wonderful.
Well,
great experience.
Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. For Wayne, for Ricardo, and the crew with USA Today Network Wisconsin, I'm Brett Christopherson saying so long. Be back here next Monday night, 6:30 at the Fox Club as we celebrate, as I mentioned, a big NFC wildcard playoff victory over the stinking Chicago Bears with some guests to be determined. We don't know. But in the meantime, let's hear those Mean Gene cheers, everybody.